taking time off of your busy day to meet with us. So basically, I'm going to share the screen here. And as Kenneth mentioned, I'm Karen Hallman, Contract and Compliance Manager, and you see Deborah Moore down at the bottom. People know her as Debbie. And so we're going to go through what it is that we have to do for this year to stay in compliance with the E-Verify, the EIN number, and moving your Social Security numbers over to having an EIN number for that E-Verify. So give me just a second. I'm going to share my screen here. I got lots of stuff open.
We're seeing the PowerPoint slide, Karen. You can just hit the little hourglass thing at the bottom and it'll pop back up.
Is it? Can you see the PowerPoint?
We can see the PowerPoint, but it's really small. So if you can just hit the little hourglass slide at the bottom down next to the magnify or where you make it bigger, and it'll pop it up full screen. Yeah, move your mouse to the left. Right there. Yep, that button. Hit that.
Did it do anything?
Hit it again.
Did it do anything?
Yeah, just hit resume.
Anything bigger?
No, we're still seeing the other version.
Let me try this one more time here. Technology, everybody. Wonders. Okay. Let's try this one. Any bigger? Did it get any bigger, or is it still the same? Oh, you're on mute, Kenneth.
Just increase the size of it from 70. Just bump it up a little bit so everybody can see it a little bit better. There you go. That's fine. Or a little bit less than that.
About there?
A little bit more, less. All right, perfect.
All right. Okay. We'll make it work. Again, we want to thank all of you. So as you know, I made contact with almost all of you regarding what the next steps will be. So as you can see here, talking a little bit about what's going to happen. So again, welcome. We're all going to talk about now what we're going to be doing from having as a family child care home a Social Security number and moving over to that EIN for the E-Verify, because you're going to, and I know Debbie has been sending every time there's like a contract that's been certified, and you're going to see that moving into next year. That's supposed to be part of the new contracts, is that whole E-Verify piece. So basically, what is the E-Verify? So moving into next year, so any of those new statewide contracts that were coming in for SR for VPK services, so anything after that January 21st for moving forward, which will be the new contract year, all family child care homes, which includes all SR and VPK providers, are going to be required to register and use that E-Verify system. So what does that mean? That means that you're going to provide the Early Learning Coalition with an affidavit stating that you do not subcontract or employ with any unauthorized aliens. So this is a law that requires the ELC to maintain a copy of that affidavit while your contract is in effect. So in order to have a E-Verify, you do have to have an EIN number. So with that being said, on the contracts, you won't be using your Social Security numbers anymore. You will be using an EIN number. So we've kind of walked you through here the steps that you're going to take, how to apply for an EIN number. Okay, so what we're going to do, the steps that we're going to do. So what is the EIN number? So some of you may have an EIN number, and some of you may be asking, well, what is an EIN number? So basically what an EIN number is, the FEIN or an EIN, it's a number that's assigned to your business by the IRS or for federal tax purposes. So basically think of it as a Social Security number for your business. So there's several ways that we're going to talk about how you can apply for that EIN number. And just know that applying for an EIN number in general is a free service that's offered by the Internal Revenue Service. So here are the different ways that we're going to talk about. There's going to be several ways that you can apply for that EIN. So we're going to go through the steps. So for step 1, to apply for an EIN number, you can use one of these methods. You can either use online, you can do it by fax or by phone. And so we strongly encourage you to work through the process and to expedite it would be to do the online version. That seems to be the most user-friendly for most. So again, that online for the EIN number is what we're going to encourage you to try to do when you apply for that EIN number. A tip with that, to make sure whatever's on your license currently when you're applying for your EIN number, so that it kind of helps move the process a little quicker. Make sure to use the name that's currently on your DCF license. So just look at what's on your DCF license, and when you're applying for your EIN number, that would be the name that you want to use, okay? So how do you apply when you're applying online for an EIN number? So as we shift from Social Security number to your EIN number, what you can do is to apply online. You can do the internet for the EIN number. And so the application is online, and this is where you would go to. So you would complete that application to apply for the EIN number online. And once your application has been completed, the information is validated during the online session, and usually an EIN number is issued immediately. So that's that quickest way to apply for your EIN number, and that's why we encourage you to do it that way. Okay, so applying for, as we were saying, here is the EIN number. And so when you're applying for it, like we said, online, this is what it's going to look like as you go onto the online system. Okay. And I'm going to give you a minute just to kind of peek at this. This is the steps that you would take while you're online. All right. We're going to move on to the next way to apply for that EIN number. Hey, Debbie, DCF is reaching out to me. Do you mind following up with Nancy? Do you have her number by chance? Okay, so another way to apply for that EIN number would be to apply by fax. And so what you can do to apply by fax is you would complete the taxpayer's information, that form SS4. So that's another way that you could that you can complete that form to apply for your EIN number. Typically, that takes about 4 business days, and this is where you would send your form and all of the information that's on your form. You would send it to this fax number. Now, those of you that are attending the meeting for today, just know that this PowerPoint, we can send this PowerPoint over to you, and you'll have a copy of this information as well, just so that you're aware. So this is the second way that you can apply. Okay. And then an additional way that you can apply would be by phone. So that is another way to apply for that EIN number, and you can call them toll free at this number, which is the 800 number, the 829-4933. You can let them know that you need to apply for an EIN number, and they'll walk you through the process of applying for an EIN number that way. So now what do? Once you have your EIN number, what are the next steps that you do? That's where we're going to move into this next phase here. So step 2 is you're going to create a Sunbiz account. So you're going to go to sunbiz.org, and that's where you're going to start with your e-filing, and you're going to complete your SunBiz so that you have that completed as the next piece of that. So I made it a little bit bigger because when you go on to the website for the SunBiz Start Business e-file that's listed in this section here, you're going to see a couple of options. You definitely want to go with the options as a family child care home. You want to look at the options that are on there. Just a moment here, I apologize. Okay, so what you can do is through the family child care, as a family child care provider, you would look at one of the two circled highlighted areas when you're in this section. So you can go into the limited liability company, and that would be for an LLC if you're looking at doing an LLC, or you can do with a fictitious name registration. There is a small fee associated with this piece of the SunBiz, and you do have to maintain that from year to year, just so that you are aware. You do have to make sure that that is being renewed every single year. Okay. So once you have your SunBiz completed and you have your EIN number and then your SunBiz completed, step 3. What is that next step? So you're going to enroll in the E-Verify. So we want to make sure that that's completed, and you saw the emails. If you're not checking your emails, please make sure that you are checking your emails regularly. I can't stress that enough. We make sure that we send out very pertinent information to you. So just make sure that if it's coming from the coalition that you're checking those emails. So with that E-Verify, you're going to make sure that that piece is completed. And just know that is an internet-based application. So you do have to have, and that's where I said you can't use a social security number. You do have to have your EIN number. And this is a requirement to contract with us into the 21-22 contract year. You do have to complete that E-Verify, which is going to require you to have an EIN number. So once you have that piece of it, just your EIN number, you're going to complete this E-Verify piece. And that's where you're going to go to the www.everify.gov/ to complete that piece of it. So that would be your step 3. Step 4, now that you have your new EIN number coming up this year, you're going to complete a new W-9 with your EIN and new business name. So make sure that you do have the latest, greatest W-9 form. You can Google W-9. I did look online and it did show the newest version was the 2018 version at this point, but Google it and just verify that you do have the latest, greatest version of that W-9. Oops. Excuse me here. Okay. Now we're going to roll into step 5. So once you've created and you've uploaded that W-9, you're going to go to step 5, which is going to create and complete your, if you haven't done so already, you're going to go into create and complete your 21-22 profile with your new name. So we want to make sure that that is then done. So you're going to go to your provider services portal and you're going to upload under the SunBiz. Now make sure it's in the document tab and not the document library in your profile. You're going to upload your new W-9 form, and you're going to also upload your new SunBiz form in that document tab. Again, not the document library, it's in your document tab. So those two forms will be in your 21-22 profile. If you've already completed your 21-22 profile, still upload that SunBiz document and your revised W-9 form with your EIN number, and we will make sure that that gets changed in your profile. So your step 6, ta-da, you're going to submit your profile. So once your profile has been moved to an active status, and when contracts are ready, we will make sure that we initiate those contracts once all these pieces are in place. Again, we can't stress enough, this is moving into the new contract year, so that Social Security numbers will not be allowed moving into the next contract year. So you will have to apply for EIN number. I want to make sure that everybody fully understands that. Okay, step 7, you're going to apply for an amendment. And I'm going to let Nancy Ibrahimi, who's down here with us, I'm going to let her talk about that a little bit, but you're going to apply with her an amendment so that we get this corrected on the license. Nancy, are you able to join us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
You're slightly muffled. Are you there with us, Nancy?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear now.
Okay, great. I'm moving. I'm hoping that it's going to work over on this side of the house. Okay, yes. So when they apply for that amendment, you're going to let the DCF know that you've changed into a corporation or an LLC, whichever one you choose. And you're going to provide that paperwork to us and do a revision of your license. So you're going to do a new application. However, it's not going to be the application packet. It's just going to be the regular 5-page application. And then behind it, you're going to attach your SunBiz paperwork. You're going to submit that to your counselor, and then your counselor will turn it over and process it. And what will happen is you'll be issued a new license. And so where normally you would see your name as owner, it's going to be whatever you choose, whatever corporation, LLC, or whatever you choose it to be. So those will be issued pretty quickly once we receive that paperwork from you. I would recommend that, and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, you said this has to take place July 1st, correct?
Correct. We will have to have everything ready to go for those that want to be contracted by July 1.
Okay, so by July 1. So I would recommend that everyone get that paperwork in to us at least a week prior. That gives enough time to get those new licenses, new applications revised and into the system, the change in our system, and then turning around and giving you that new license. Does anyone have any questions regarding that?
I'm not seeing any questions in the comment box regarding that. I do have somebody that asked about the website, and I'll go back and just show it real quick. Now, just like I said, you will get a copy of this PowerPoint that will walk you through, but I will go back and I will click on the website just so that you can see. I'll click on the to apply for the EIN, the website, and then I'll also show you the SunBiz one as well. So give me just a minute here.
We do have a couple people who raised their hands to ask a question. I'm going to allow Mary King to ask her question. Mary, it looks like you're self-muted.
Hello,
Go ahead, Mary. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so DCF require us to have as a home daycare to use our name, which is our first and last name, as our business. And they didn't require us to use SunBiz. So in order to be contract with ELC, you're telling us we have to go SunBiz, and you want us to change our name?
You don't necessarily have to. You you don't necessarily have to change the name. Matter of fact, we actually kind of recommend that if you're doing that, just you have to go and register for an EIN, but that EIN, you can keep it, if it's Mary King Family Child Care Home, you can keep it that, when you register your EIN, but you do have to have an EIN in SunBiz now. And that's because you have to register for E-Verify. And you have to have E-Verify to be able to have a contract with the Early Learning Coalition starting 7/1.
So we have to be SunBiz in order to be with the contract with ELC.
That's correct.
And you said in order for, we have to have E-Verify first in order to have SunBiz. I'm still kind of confused on having the E-Verify. I think I just.
You have, E-Verify is a new requirement the federal government's put in place. We sent a few emails out about E-Verify and the requirements thereof, but E-Verify is required for essentially any contractor in the United States of America now that receives any type of federal funding. So anybody who receives any kind of grant or funds, as we provide for school readiness for school readiness program, everyone has to be registered through E-Verify now. Well, the only way to get and do that E-Verify registration is if you have an EIN. So that's why we're talking about this tonight, is saying, hey, you have to have an EIN. So this is how you need to go about doing that. These are the steps you need to go about doing that E-Verify, or to do that EIN, so that you can obtain your E-Verify, so that you can change your profile, so that you can change your license with DCF to be able to contract starting 7/1.
So I had my EIN since 2013. Do I change that EIN? That EIN is not registered with SunBiz because I was told I didn't have to. So how do I go up? Do I have to go back in and just keep that EIN and just register that with SunBiz, or do I get a new EIN?
Well, you shouldn't have to have a new EIN, but if you're operating a business under an EIN, then that's what your business should already be registered as with the Early Learning Coalition. And you could use that EIN for your E-Verify, but you would want to make sure that in your profile, that's what it's listed. That EIN is what is being listed in your provider profile and not your social security number. Most providers that we have, I believe out of 35 or so, there was only 5 that were registered under as an EIN. Everybody else had their social security number in their provider profile, which has been fine up until this point. But going forward, you have to have the EIN to be able to register for E-Verify, and you have to have E-Verify to have a contract as of 7/1. All right. It looks like Jean McNish had a question. I will allow you to talk now. And it looks like you're self-muted, Jean. If you want to unmute yourself, you can ask your question.
Can you hear me now?
We got you. Go ahead.
Okay, I did not understand what Nancy was saying when we get to step 7 on the amendment.
So what I was stating was, let's say you go and you get your EIN, if you decide to change your name, whatever you listed on SunBiz as, you will now need to have that on your license. So some of you already have this in place, and some of you already have fictitious names, you have EINs, you have businesses. Very few people, however, do. So, but if you choose to do that, if you choose to change it, it will have to change on your license. So that will create, that will mean that you will need to create a new application. Just the 4 or 5 pages, not the whole packet. And on the top, there's a little box that you would check that would say revision of the license. And you would fill that out. You would list your EIN number, corporation, whatever name you choose if you decide to give it a name. And then you would submit it to your licensing counselor. We would process it, and then we would give you a new license with that information so that it would match. Because what we have has to match what the coalition has.
Okay. I'm unmuted back. Did they mute me back?
We can still hear you, Gene.
Okay, I'm gonna unmute myself.
And I want to make sure everybody can see the screen that I've shared. Is it showing, Kenneth, how to apply for EIN online?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so this is the website that we were saying where it says here to go online, and then you would click on that, apply online now, and it'll walk you through the steps. And now I'm going to walk you over to where the SunBiz portion is. So give me just a minute here.
All right, we had a few, while you're doing that, Karen, we had a few questions come in. It says the website was moved to, okay, so you're showing them the online website now. So we got that. Does an EIN expire? The number itself does not expire. I'm not sure as far as renewing that with the IRS, if there's a renewal. I'm not sure about that. Do you know about that, Karen or Debbie?
If the SunBiz expires,
Once you register for an EIN, does that expire? Do you have to update that ever so often? I'm not sure about that.
with the SunBiz itself, you have to maintain the SunBiz portion each year. That part it is, but as far as the EIN expiring, is that what you're asking if your EIN expires?
Yeah, if the EIN expires, is what you're saying.
I'm not certain. I don't think it does, but I don't know. I'll have to look into that.
Another question, being that I already have this information, all I have to do is submit it in the document tab. So you need to submit it. You need to submit that information in the document tab, but you also still have to make sure you have the SunBiz, make sure you have the EIN. You still have to make sure that you have the information that you got to give to DCF. So you still got to do that portion as well. And then you also got to update your profile to match those new documents. EINs do not expire, just to let you know. Thank you, Fallon. Let's see here. I'm registered with SunBiz with fictitious name using my Social Security. How can I switch the social to the EIN with SunBiz? You would just have to obtain that EIN using going through that website. Then you would use that EIN to register that through SunBiz. There's a question about using Social Security number through E-Verify. It's not possible to do that. it's not possible to do E-Verify and complete that enrollment using the Social Security number. They won't let you do that. Looks like we had some in the chat too. As far as the fictitious name, do we use the DCF name or can we create a new business name? You know, as far as technically you could create a new business name to make this process smoother for yourself, DCF, and the coalition. You know, so we don't have to recreate new profiles and fill out new profiles and all that good stuff. If you kept it the same, we'd be able to kind of use that same profile. All we do is just update that EIN as of 7/1. And so essentially you use that same profile. But with this being said, we do want to make sure that you guys understand that, you know, if your EIN, you start using that EIN 7/1 and you're currently using your Social Security number for tax purposes, you will receive 2 1099s from the ELC for 2021. You'll receive one for the first 6 months under your social, and then you'll receive a separate one for the second 6 months under your new EIN. So there will be, you know, changing that EIN will change your, you know, as far as taxes go, you'll have 2 different 1099s. You won't just have one because it's under 2 different entities. Okay, so that's all that are in the chat. Let's see here. Is there any more in the Q&A?
And while Kenneth is looking at, you can see here that I've shared with you all with the SunBiz, as I was talking about, where you would select the option for what you're going to be applying for. And that is right here. And then again, that's on the email that I sent to you all. Or I mean, in the PowerPoint that you'll receive.
And we'll send, like Karen just said, we'll make sure you guys have this PowerPoint, so you don't have to, you know, write down that you might already have, but those steps will be there for you, and then those web addresses will be there for you as well. I do have a question. It looks like Katrina, I'm going to, you are permitted. Katrina, looks like you're self-muted. All right, you should be good now, Katrina.
I just had a question. I have an EIN number. I already registered with eFile, but I did not register with SunBiz. So now what I do?
Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, so you have your EIN number. You're ahead of the game. So that's good. So what you're going to do is, like I said, the next step would be going over to the sunbiz.org, and then you'll register using that EIN number, because when you apply for SunBiz, they're going to ask you what your EIN number. So when you get ready to do that piece, you'll plug that in and then use the name that you're using for your EIN, and then you'll just finish that process.
Well, I had the EIN number when I first opened. So that's been over 15 years ago. So do I use my new license name because it has changed?
So the license that's on the EIN is different, is what you're saying?
Yes, it's different.
What you have is different versus what's on your license.
My EIN number paper name would be different. Well, it's under Katrina. It's under Katrina Donald. It's not. But my license is like Donald Katrina Family Daycare Home. So do I register that with SunBiz or my name?
Like Kenna said, the easiest way would be with your EIN number. If you have an EIN number and you're changing the name, that can be changed. You'll have to go through when you do your EIN number, there is a form if you've done any kind of changes with that you can complete on the EIN number. And then when you get to the SunBiz part, you can change it so that it makes sense to meet with your license. But if you're wanting to use it and continue to use that is up to you, but you would have to change that with the license because it would be different, and that would require a change to the profile.
Okay, one more question. So when I register with SunBiz, do I wait till they send me out something, or do it almost take immediate effect?
When you register for SunBiz, usually they'll give you when you complete it, a confirmation. But if I'm not mistaken, Debbie, It's not, and Fallon, it's not like an overnight kind of thing. They do send you a confirmation, but it could take a couple of days or so to get where you can download the form, correct?
Yes. It usually takes at least 2 or 3 business days, sometimes up to a week, to get that form through Sundays that we've seen.
Okay, ladies, thanks a lot.
Usually get a confirmation that lets you know that it's been completed.
There's another question as far as what do we have to do for employees when it comes to E-Verify? So E-Verify is essentially employment verification is what it's fancy. E-Verify is fancy for. But essentially what you have to do is when we say you need to create an E-Verify, we're talking about an E-Verify account. You have to go on to E-Verify, create an account. Any employee that you have, from that point on, you have to run that employee through the E-Verify system. So you would need to log into your account. You're adding an employee. You would gather the information from that employee, and then you would enter it into that E-Verify system. That system, runs through, and it makes essentially what it's doing is make sure that employee is authorized to work in the United States, and so they're not unauthorized, in other words. So any employee that you have has to be run through E-Verify. Let's see here. We had one more question. Do we have to have this by May 1st? So the requirement is you have to have this E-Verify, EIN, amendment with DCF. All of that has to take effect July 1st of 2021. That being said, we don't want everyone to wait. We don't want everybody to wait and do this at the last second. You can go ahead and do, that's why we're doing this now. You can go ahead and do your EIN, go ahead and do your SunBiz, go ahead and do your provider profile. You can go ahead and do all of that. You'll just wait until right before 7/1, Nancy said maybe a week out before 7/1 to give them that information so that they can make those amendments effective 7/1 so that it's a smooth transition for the coalition to change your information for your 21-22 profile and your 21-22 contract.
And I know why you're asking that. You're asking that because you see the emails that your profiles need to be completed by May. I know that's probably the question, why that came up. We're still wanting you and encouraging you. Yes, the profiles need to be completed. And that's why I said, if you haven't done so already, go through these steps. And then if you already have your profile and it's completed for 21-22, update the information, the SunBiz, update the W-9 form, put those new ones in there, and we will change the license piece of it and the section that asks that in the profile.
Thank you, Karen. There's also another question. So would you be considered an employee? I guess you yourself be considered an employee for home daycare since you're the one, doing the instruction. So this is a little bit of the tricky part with this. We tried to get to where family child care homes weren't responsible for doing this because they're their own employee. And any employee that is, was in before January 1st of this year, they're exempt from this requirement. So what's the point, right? But they're saying that anyone that receives federal funding has to have this as of 7/1. So as far as a sub, if you're paying them, for care that you're receiving from school readiness dollars, then yes, they would have to be registered. They would have to go through E-Verify. Essentially, it comes down to funding at the federal level. If any federal funding is going towards any employee or anyone that's receiving money that is derived from those federal funds, then they have to go through E-Verify. We've got a couple of people that have raised their hands. Let's see here. We're gonna go. Let's see. I have looks like Eugene. I'm gonna allow you to talk now.
Okay, good evening. All right. I had to create an e-verify account when I initiate my contract this year. But I had used my social security number to do that. And I don't know how to go back now to change that. That's what first question. The second question is, I have a Sunbiz account. I use the social also. Do I have to go back and create another account, or is there a way where I can just change the social to the EIN?
So for E-Verify, I'm not sure how you did that, but we've received, information from essentially from the federal government that says you are not permitted to use a social security number to register for E-Verify. So I'm not sure how you were permitted to do that,
I did.
but
Sorry, and I also had to do
everyone that we've had that has, we had people try that at the beginning and they weren't allowed to create those accounts because they were using the social. So I'm not sure how that was possible.
Yeah, I haven't found with them.
I think what she's talking about is she signed the attestation saying that she would use the E-Verify system, not the E-Verify system itself.
Oh, so
Okay.
when I did that class, I did a test and all of that, when I signed that, I had to do a test through going through all of those stuff. So I'm just a little concerned.
I'm not sure. We may have to get with you after the meeting to talk about that. Again, like I say, a social security number is not permitted to create an E-Verify account. So you definitely have to create an E-Verify account using an EIN.
Okay, we'll talk after the meeting because I have an
Sounds good.
account that can go in.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, let's see here. All right, we have another question from, looks like Miss Summage. All right, looks like you're self-muted, Teresa.
Yes,
All right, you're good.
I was the one asking about, do we have to have that did by May 1st, since we was getting emails about the contracts needed to be in by May 1st. So since we got E-Verified now, that give us a little more time. What should we do?
Go ahead and complete your profile. While you're completing your profile, we'll still hold it. So we'll do another check beforehand. So we don't want to hold up the profiles. If you're in the process of doing the E-Verify now, it's going to be easiest to do this as you're doing the profiles. If you can get it done before May 1st, awesome. But if you're getting close and it's getting hung up, go ahead and complete your profiles. Continue to do the E-Verify. Upload once you get the Sunbiz and you've got your new W-9, upload those. You can even shoot us an email and say, hey, I've uploaded those documents, and then we'll switch it. We have the ability on our end to switch that, those two pieces. The end piece, before we can initiate the contract ultimately for you all and get it certified, is that we do need to get that fixed with DCF.
Okay, let me ask you this. I've had my EIN number for forever, but I don't know the name that I used, but I'm sure it's not the name that I'm using now. Should I go back and reapply or just ask them what name that I got that under?
I would say I'd say do a little research. I'd say, figure out what that name was under that EIN. You may not want that. I'm not sure if they can amend a name under an EIN. I'm not sure exactly how that process works. That might be a question for, find a number on that that IRS website where they're talking about EINs and and call somebody there and ask them about that. I'm not 100% sure what that process would look like. At the end of the day, it might be just as easy just to apply for a new one and with the new name. That may be easier than transferring it. I'm not sure, but that would be, my recommendation.
Oh, okay.
Just posted the number here. And again, you will get this PowerPoint, but like the question you had, you can't find your EIN number. It's somewhere possibly. This is the number you can call and speak with somebody too and kind of go through the front instead of going online. There is a 800 number. That's the 800-829-4933 to see if you can speak with somebody that can walk you through what to do.
Okay, I have my number. I just don't know what name. Did I use Summit Family Home Daycare or some other daycare? Sometime it be Summit Family Home Day, Summit Daycare Home. I don't know which one I use, but I have my number. I just don't know what name it's under.
And if they'll probably ask for some more information, they would probably be able to guide you to that number, walk you through on where to find that and how to find that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, Karen. I don't see any more questions or hands raised at this point. If you had anything left.
All right, so at the end, if you think of things after we hang up, I've left our contact information, so you can jot that down if you want. Most of you have been talking to me, and so I can be reached obviously at Karen Hallman at elcpolk.org, the 577-2450, extension 307. I know many of you too have been talking with Debbie Moore, and her contact information regarding those contracts is Deborah Moore. We know her as Debbie, but her email is Deborah Moore at elcpolk.org. And then her phone number, same phone number, the 863-577-2450, and her extension is 221. And Nancy Ibrahimi, we all know Nancy, and she will be working on the DCF piece of that with the licensing. And then Nancy, am I good with that 863-499-2222 number?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, well, I think you said yes.
Yeah, she said yes.
She said yes. All right. We won't hold you up any longer. Does anybody else have any additional questions? It looks like there might be something.
Yeah,
popped
looks
up.
like, for the E-Verify link, that's going to be in the PowerPoint as well. So you'll see the E-Verify link, the SunBiz link, and the EIN IRS website link. You'll have all of those.
Send you this tomorrow. And I'm not going to do it tonight, but you all will get a copy of the PowerPoint, those of you that have been in attendance tomorrow. So check your emails.
All right. Do we have any other questions? All right. Seeing none, guys, thank you so much for participating. I know this is kind of a different thing that we've kind of all got to go through now, and we just really wanted to give you guys the opportunity to sit in for a few minutes and ask questions to be able to get ready for 7/1, because we all want to see your smiling faces at 7/1 for the contract next year. So again, thank you guys all so much for the work that you do for these children and working with us every step of the way. So we really appreciate that. Thank you to Karen and Debbie for putting this together. And I know that they're available for you guys to reach out to if you have any questions. Call me as well if you have a question. Thank you, Nancy, for joining us tonight and working with us on getting a transition for 7/1 for everyone, so that we can continue on into next year smoothly. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. I hope you guys have a great night.
Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you.